bookworms! Today I'm going to be doing my most disappointing books of 2018 video. As I've said in the videos before this one, I always wait until the end of the year to film these wrap-ups because you just never know if one of the books that you read in December could end up on one of these lists. Actually, a lot of the ones that are on this for me were books that I read much earlier in the year, but I think that I had a really good reading year overall. There weren't too many books that made this list. I had a lot of books that ended up being middle of the road, which is disappointing within itself because obviously you go into every book like wanting to find a new favorite, and that's unrealistic. That obviously won't happen. I think that overall I did read less books that I found disappointing than I have in years past, and part of that reason is because I think that I was better about not finishing books that I wasn't really feeling like reading or putting them to the side until I was in the mood to read them again. But there were some books that I was very much anticipating that just didn't work for me. So those are the ones that I'm going to talk about in this video. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is A Reaper at the Gates by Sabaa Tahir. I had been very much anticipating this book, but it just didn't hold up to the rest of the series for me. Books 1 and 2 are still two of my favorite fantasy books like ever, but the third book I felt like was missing something, and I felt a little bit more disconnected from the characters within this book. And I also, which is again, I've said this like a couple of times, but it was my fault because I remembered something from the series that was not confirmed, and I, in my mind, thought that it was confirmed. So when it ended up being a twist in this book, I was really disappointed because I was like, I thought that we knew that already. It just like didn't have the same impact as it did for people who weren't expecting it or who remembered that it wasn't a confirmed fact. So yeah, this book felt like a lot of setup for the fourth book, which I'm still very much looking forward to reading, but it just didn't live up to my expectations. I also didn't like the direction that Elias's character went in this book, so I had a couple of problems with it overall, and that is why it has made this list. Next on my list is a book that I no longer have a copy of because I unhauled it, and that is Wild Beauty by Anna Marie McLemore. This is one where I was able to appreciate the writing, and I am looking forward to giving Anna Marie McLemore a second chance, but Wild Beauty just didn't work for me. I think part of the reason is because there were so many characters that it was tough to differentiate them from one another. I want to say there were like 5 cousins or something who were the main characters. Only 2 of them were very distinguishable from the rest of them. That kind of threw me because I felt like I wasn't connected to those characters. As you can see, like I very much need to feel connected to characters in order to enjoy a book, and if I feel like there's no defining characteristics, it really hinders my enjoyment of a novel. So there was that issue, and then on top of that, the year prior, I had read The Careful Undressing of Love by Corey Ann Haydu, and it was almost the exact same story. If I hadn't read that one, I think I would have enjoyed Wild Beauty a lot more than I did because I thought that it was a very cool concept, and like I said, I did like the writing style, but I just overall didn't like the book because I was like, I feel like I've already read this, and because of those character issues. Again, I am gonna give Anna Marie McLemore another chance because I did like the writing style. This one just wasn't for me. I think it was published by Fierce Reads instead of St. Martin's Press, and St. Martin's Press published her first 2 books, so I'm curious if I will like those better, and I'm also really interested in reading Blanca and Roja, but sadly I really disliked this one and I unhauled it right after. Next on my list is another book that I unhauled, and that is Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. This is one that again I had been really looking forward to because I really loved We Were Liars, but this one was like all over the place and it was really short. The story wasn't explored as much as I would have liked it to be. I really didn't like the main character, and I know that I had other issues with it, but it was honestly just very forgettable. So I feel like I'm not even remembering all of the reasons that I didn't like it. I just remember that I didn't enjoy it. It was a thriller, but it was very disappointing. And yeah, I ended up unhauling that one as well. And actually both Wild Beauty and Genuine Fraud I read in January of last year. So like 2 of the worst books that I read this year were books that I read within the first month of the year, which is so crazy to me. Next on my list is Leah on the Offbeat by Becky Albertalli. I had again been so looking forward to this one because I just love Becky's other books, both The Upside of Unrequited and Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda are two of my favorite contemporary YA novels like ever. So I was really expecting to love this one, and I was really looking forward to getting to know Leah better as a character, but I just didn't enjoy this story. I have to say that while I was reading it, I was enjoying being back in the world and enjoying Becky's writing, but the more time that I've had away from the book, the more I've come to dislike it. And the reason that is because there were so many things that Becky had to change. Like, she pretty much rewrote the history in Simon versus the Homo sapiens Agenda in order to get this story to fit like what she wanted it to do. And I hate when authors will change a past event in order to like fit their current needs. I think it's like a very weak form of storytelling. I just didn't see the relationship like happening, and I feel like a different character had to be kind of destroyed in order to get this relationship to happen. I know that I feel like other people have complained about this as well, but this was especially disappointing because I had been so looking forward to it. This one, for now, I've decided to keep, even though I know that I'm just never going to reread it, just because I really do like Becky's books, so I think I like having a collection of them. But this is one that I might even potentially like unhaul at some point, because I just, every time that I think about it, I get like more upset. Next on my list is To Kill a Kingdom by Alexandra Christo, and this is a book that I didn't dislike, but I had been anticipating that it would end up being a new favorite for me, and it really ended up being more middle of the road. I actually just grabbed it from my unhaul pile because I am going to be getting rid of it. I am just sad that I didn't like it more than I did. I thought that it was a fun story. I thought that it was a good retelling of The Little Mermaid, but it was like just missing some element. I just didn't connect with it in the way that other people seemed to. Some of my best friends loved this, like it was one of their favorites of the year, but for me it was a huge disappointment. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I just didn't love it. Like, it was fine, but I'm not gonna reread it or anything. It was okay. I feel like I'm giving a terrible explanation of why I didn't like it, because I always find those middle of the road books to be the most challenging to talk about, because there wasn't anything about it that was like exceptionally bad, but there just wasn't anything about it that was exceptionally good, and I was expecting it to be, so that's why it is such a disappointment. Another one that I just grabbed from my unhaul pile is Furyborne by Claire Legrand. I was really expecting to love this book because it is a new fantasy series, and so many of the people that I like trust with their opinions said that they really enjoyed this one, and I just couldn't really get invested in the characters. I really liked the perspective of Riel, but I didn't really care for their perspective of Eliana. So it was kind of annoying to go back and forth and then to not really feel motivated to pick the book back up when I knew that I was going to be beginning on the perspective that I didn't really care for. I also just felt like so much more could have been done in this book. Like, while it is a first book in a series, so yes, Claire Legrand is laying the groundwork down for it, I just like couldn't bring myself to care about what was going on. It's like a long book, so I think it's like 500 pages, but even halfway through, like over 250 pages in, I still felt like it was still the beginning of the story, and it just wasn't capturing my attention. I really wanted more action and more depth. So yeah, I was sad. This just didn't do it for me. I love the cover so much. It like pains me to say it, because again, this was another one that was very middle of the road. I don't think there was anything that was exceptionally bad about it. I just can't see myself spending the time to pick up the second one. And the last one on my list, which was a huge surprise to me, was A Court of Frost and Starlight by Sarah J. Maas. This one is one that I enjoyed, definitely. I thought that it was fun, but it definitely read like fan fiction. And the reason that it's on this list is because I feel like I was promised a bridge to the second set of stories that are going to be set within the world of A Court of Thorns and Roses. And this entire novel just didn't do that. There was an epilogue afterward, and that was like the sole connecting bridge to the next piece of the story. So while I definitely liked getting more time with the characters because I love the characters very much, I didn't feel like it was a necessary addition to the series. I did enjoy it because I enjoy the characters, but I was disappointed because I wanted more out of it, and it was a lot of fluff, which is so weird to say because it's like this crazy fantasy world where there was just like an insane battle that went on, but it really was just like fluff, and like it was nice to see the characters getting to enjoy themselves after all of the tough stuff that they went through. But again, it just didn't capture the magic of the first couple of books in the series. So those are all of the books on my most disappointing list. As I said, there weren't a ton of them. I think I did a good job of picking books this year, and even like some of the ones on this list were middle of the road. Overall, I think I enjoyed the majority of books that I did read. These were just ones that I had been like wanting more out of. I'm hoping that I will have even less books in 2019 to talk about, because I really do want to get even better at DNFing books that I'm not enjoying, and that I think will help with this. But that is partially why this list was so small. So let me know if you read any of the books that I mentioned, or if you have similar feelings to me. That's all that I have for this video, and I will see you guys soon in a new one. Bye!